Welcome, everybody. Hello, my name is Vera. I am a clinical psychologist. I am certified in plant-based nutrition and certified in vegan nutrition. I've been vegan for a while now, and as much as we can, me and my family participate in activism. What we can do here in my country, which is small, but we can. And as a family, we try to live a very conscious life. So today, I want to be talking to you about mental health. Mental health is very important for us. It's also important to take a little bit of time for ourselves, I think. It's important to find new ways to feel safe and feel happy and feel healthy, which is what makes us go on with the work that we do. The work that we do is quite important for us, our family, our community, and the world overall. So I think this is quite nice that we have this space to share with each other. And thank you so much for taking an interest. So before we begin, I just want to tell you that this is a safe space. I know that you've heard this before, but it is. There is no judgment here. We can share our comments, our thoughts, our experiences, which is always very helpful because we all learn from each other and that we are all in this together. So I want to begin with that, okay? I'm going to be sharing my screen because I do have some things that I want to show you. So let me just see if I can do that. Okay, here we go. I want to see where it is that I can share it, like share. There we go. Let me know if you can see it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make it bigger, but for some reason it's not. There it is. Okay, perfect. So the title of the workshop is You Matter. And again, I think it's very important that we take time for ourselves. Really, when activists do work, everything comes first, and then we take a space to take care of ourselves, of our mental health, of our emotions. So I want to start with a little bit of that. And we hear this term a lot. We hear mental health, and your mental health is important. But really, what is mental health? I think it's great that we define it. There are many definitions for mental health, but one of them, according to the World Health Organization, if you are in good mental health, you can make the most out of your potential, you can cope with life and play a full part in your family, workplace, community, and among friends. Now, this is just one definition, and I think all of this is great. The definition is great, but there are many different things that we can do to feel okay, to feel like I am okay with my life and the things that I do. I think it's much more than just paying attention to our brain and the way that we think, because as activists, we go through many challenges. I think the many challenges that we go through is that we are confronted with harsh realities, things that are sad, things that are scary, and really just things that are hard to believe that happen still in this time. So I want to touch down today on two of the major things that affect our mental health, and two things that I hear a lot from people who talk to me, and that is anxiety, okay, and depression. And those two things are common right now. Every time that we speak to somebody, they either say they have felt anxiety or they have depression. So I'm going to touch down on those two topics. And please, if you want or have questions, just let me know and I will answer them as best as I can. And I cannot see the chat when I do that. So if anybody has a question and I don't see it, please let me know, okay? So let's start with this one, okay? The first thing that we're going to talk about is anxiety. And I know you've all heard about the name and what happens, but I'm going to try to define the best way that I can what anxiety is. So to begin, anxiety is a reaction to stress, okay? Whenever we have stress or when we have moments and situations where we are reminded of danger or feeling unsafe, anxiety symptoms come and I feel them, and it makes me act differently. It makes me feel differently. It makes me feel unsettled. Okay, so anxiety is just a response to stress, and usually a trigger that brings stress. Okay, so the most common symptoms of anxiety are a racing heart. Usually, I feel like, my heart is racing, and I can't be still, or I don't feel still. Shortness of breath. Okay, I can have fatigue. I can feel tired. I can have headache. Okay. Some of the physical symptoms that I can feel when I am in an anxious episode or when I'm having anxiety is that my palms can be sweaty or clammy, kind of sticky. I can get tingling in my arms and in my legs, or I can feel dizzy. Dizzy, like the ground just moved from under me, and I'm just like really dizzy, and I don't feel I can be steady. Those are common symptoms of anxiety. Now, I just want to make sure that if you have felt this before, or if you have some recognition of some of the symptoms and say, oh, yes, I have felt this, make sure, first of all, go to your doctor. That is very important, because some of the symptoms can be anxiety, some of the symptoms can be different. So just check how you felt in a situation where you have felt stress. And if some of these symptoms that I just shared ring a bell, make sure you check them out, okay? But most of the common symptoms when I have anxiety are this. There are many, many symptoms for these things, but those are the most common. So how can I manage the feelings and symptoms of anxiety? This is the most important part, and this is what I want to share with you, because if we do have these symptoms, there are techniques that we can use for calming ourselves down and just feeling better overall, okay? So one of the first steps is our breath. And during the week in these conferences, I saw several conferences where they were talking about the importance of breathing. And it may seem like, yeah, I breathe all the time, so what's the big deal? But it is very important. The reason why breathing is important is because it brings oxygen to our brain, okay? And when we have our brain functioning correctly, it's easier to manage all of those feelings that I have. Also, when I breathe and I concentrate on my breathing, it takes the focus off of whatever is making me anxious. It takes the focus off the situation that is bringing me the stress and these feelings, and it focuses just on me breathing and being calm and just moving whatever it is that I'm thinking to another thing or another situation, okay? While breathing, you can count. I was just mentioning that in the week, Polly mentioned a few techniques. I'm not gonna give you all of the techniques. I'm just gonna give you some. But while breathing, you can count. While breathing, you can also notice the space around you. You can use your senses to make yourself feel calm and ground yourself, okay? Breathing is also very important to, take a few deep breaths at the beginning, but don't continue doing it because you will feel dizzy and feel like you're gonna faint, so it's gonna make it worse. Just after a few deep breaths, you can go back to your normal breathing and notice the space around you. This is very important. It just calms down our brain in general. So while breathing, we can practice something that is called grounding techniques. I don't know if you have heard of them, but grounding techniques, like the name says, are for us to feel grounded in the space that we are, for us to feel present, in the moment that we are. So I'm going to share with you some of the techniques that are common. I'm pretty sure you've heard about them, but I want to show you because it's important that we practice them. Most of us just see them or hear about them, but we don't practice them. So one of my favorite techniques is the senses technique, okay? And it's my favorite because it's easy. It's easy because it's in us. It's something that we can do. We don't need anything to do this, okay? So how does it work? The senses technique, as its name says, we are going to use our 5 senses, okay, to focus on the present moment and the place where we are. We can take a moment to see, hear, and feel, smell, and even taste. And I'm going to explain how we can taste the moment, okay, where we are. This is very helpful if we are having an anxiety moment. If I'm in my room and I feel like those symptoms of anxiety are bubbling up inside me, and I'm like, oh, I feel it coming, my heart is racing, my hands are sweaty, I don't know what to do. This is a great technique to use. So, for example, if you are in your room, or if you're in your home, or wherever you are in that moment, just sit down in a comfortable place where you can have a moment to yourself, okay? And then you're gonna start breathing. Again, the breathing techniques are different, but just taking a deep breath, like calming yourself before you begin the exercise is very important. If you need to take 2 or 3 breaths, that is great. And after that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna start using your senses, okay? And it's called also the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. I call it the senses one, but it is because you are going to focus on different things in different moments. So for example, the first thing you're going to do is start with 5, okay, and your sight. So here in the chart, I think that you can see there's a little eye, and it says, what are 5 things that you can see that are around you? So for example, if you are in your room, you can notice pictures that you have hanging on the wall, okay? Every time you take a breath, notice something from your room. Pictures that you have on the wall. You can also look at the patterns in your room. You can look at your closet and the colors of your clothes. You can look at anything that is around you, but really notice it, not just name it, like, notice it and say, okay, there is pictures in my room. Where did I take those pictures? Kind of go back to the things that you see. Where did you get them? Or why are you looking at those things? Okay, so notice 5 things. After that, you're going to move to your touch. Okay, the touch is very important. Touch is very important because it makes you feel safe in the space that you are. Okay, so for example, here I am in my dining room and I love my table and it has kind of this texture. So if I'm having an anxious moment, what I would do is I would sit down, kind of just, rub my hands through it, feel it. What can I feel? Or if I have a blanket, or my clothes, what is the feeling that gives me? This is very important to calm ourselves down. It sends a message to our brain through touch to calm myself down. If you have something that is soft or something that you keep with you, a sweater, anything, just rub your hands on it and touch it and just start feeling calm as you do it. You can also pick up an object that you have close to you. Cell phone, I wouldn't recommend it. It's just nothing that we can use. But if you have something near you that you can pick up and just look at it and see it and what is the weight of it, ask yourself questions about the object. What is it made of? Why do I have it? Anything that just moves the focus from what you are touching, what you were anxious about, to what you're touching. And then you go to the next step. 3 things that you can hear, okay? So when we are anxious, most of our senses start to shut down, and I just focus on my anxious feelings. So opening up the senses, as I do with hearing, really listening to what is going on outside, is very important. So 3 things that you can hear in the room. If you are in your room, can you hear, traffic noise outside? Or can I hear my neighbors doing something? Or my dog, if I have pets, or the birds, anything that you can hear. If there's music around you, what do you hear in that moment? But really focus on the sounds that surround you, okay? Trees blowing in the wind, anything that you can do to move your focus, your anxious focus, away from that, okay? By now, by the 3rd sense, you might feel all of the anxious symptoms start to mellow down and to, yourself to be more calm by this moment. just by going through the first three, by now you should be a little bit more relaxed. Your heartbeat tends to slow down by this step. So very important to take notice of that. The second one is two things that you can smell. I don't know, most of us, or at least me, I like to keep herbs and things around my house that smell nice. Sometimes it doesn't smell that nice, and that's fine, but you can notice that too. So two things that you can smell around me. If I have a candle, a scented candle, or my clothing from the laundry basket, anything that you can smell, just take in that moment, breathe again, and try to find things that you can sense with your sense of smell, okay? So that is very important. And the last step for grounding yourself is one thing that you can taste. Now, if I am in my kitchen, it's easy, or if I'm in my room and I keep anything like just a glass of water, okay, that is helpful. But sometimes we are not going to be in our room, or we're not going to be in our house. So one of the things that I suggest, and it's over there, is that carry with you a piece of gum, candy, you know, something like a power bar, whatever you feel like carrying. Fruit. I always have a little thing with fruit with me. So it is important to have it with you to do the last step if you can. Pop one in your mouth, like it says right there, and just focus on the flavors, the texture of your food. How does it feel? Is it delicious or not? Do you like it or not? Is this a taste that you like and you have always liked since you can remember? So every step that we do, even if it's really, really simple, you notice that what I'm doing is not really just noticing. It's taking my attention away from the anxious moment that I was having. My heart by now is going to be more calm. My breathing is going to be more calm. I'm going to probably not feel shaky, okay? And I'm just going to feel a sense of, you know, relax, okay? That moment happened, and now I am okay to move on with whatever that is that I was doing before, okay? So the grounding technique is great. There are many grounding techniques, and I can share them with you. I'm gonna send the email to Agustina probably, and she can share them with all of you so you can practice them. This is really nice to feel safe. And, oh, excuse me, I wanted to do this. Now, another technique that helps anxiety, and especially if we have social anxiety, or this type of anxiety that is not triggered immediately, but it's a constant feeling, because there are different types of anxiety. There is anxiety that can be triggered by a moment, and there is also anxiety that I just feel constantly, or that I feel all the time, that I need to work with. So this technique specifically is very helpful if I am a person that usually feels anxious. And what is it? Is writing or sketching and drawing. Now, I know that you have heard probably about the journaling technique, and we're going to talk about it in a few minutes too, but writing can be something simple, like just putting in paper what I'm feeling at the moment, or doodling, you know, that is why I wrote sketching, or doodling, you know, doodling is when people just go through a paper and just make little circles or X's or whatever. Okay, so writing is important. If you are a person that enjoys writing, try it out. Writing how I feel in the moment can also help me register how often I feel anxious, or why was I feeling anxious about. So it's very useful. Sketching and drawing. When I give this technique out, people tell me, oh, but I'm terrible at drawing. I cannot draw a tree. It's like, I'm gonna draw like a 3-year-old. That's fine. It doesn't have to be professional. I am not looking for you to make a wonderful art picture. What I'm trying to do is to move again the focus from your anxious moment to something else. And drawing, believe it or not, it's wonderful because it actually changes how my brain is working. It takes my brain effort to move into a drawing technique, or to move into sketching something, because I'm putting all of my focus on the picture that I'm making. So drawing and writing can activate that part of your brain that connects with the picture. Most people like to draw sceneries. If you are going to try this technique, I would encourage you to think about a place where you feel safe when you are drawing. For me, for example, it can be my house or my parents' house, the place where I felt safe for a moment, or if I feel safe being on a beach or in a friend's house. Thinking of a place or something that you are going to draw that makes you feel safe is also going to connect that feeling of, okay, I don't have to be anxious right now. I am safe, I am drawing, and your brain is going to connect to that, and it's going to make your brain start, feeling better. And the reason we do all these activities, or the reason that I'm mentioning all of these activities, is because the most important thing is to take the focus off. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I was looking at the chat, but that's fine. So you do get involved in the process of, writing or sketching, and it gives away your original activity, or I'm sorry, it gives space to the original sense of anxiety to go away. Okay, so that is the first thing that I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to go out of the screen for a moment, because let me see. I don't know if somebody wants to, in the chat you can do it, if somebody wants to tell me if they have felt these symptoms before. Like if you've ever felt your racing heart, or in what moments have you felt them. If you want to share with them, you can put them in the comments. I think it says yes all the time. Yeah, most of us don't notice these symptoms until somebody says them. But for example, when I worked with my anxiety, because I have, I used to be with a racing heart all the time, and I hadn't noticed it until I really paid attention to, a list of symptoms. And it was amazing that doing grounding techniques, or just simply taking time to breathe, just helped me. It says in the chat, please can you elaborate about the different types of anxiety? Yes, there are different types. There is general anxiety that we feel when there is no known cause about it. There's also social anxiety, which is brought on by me being in social situations, not comfortable with being in social situations. I feel kind of, for some people, trapped in the social situation, or that I just want to get out of it. So there is that. There is triggered anxiety, which can be when something reminds me of a place where I wasn't safe, or a place that made me feel scared. That is a trigger, and it can bring on stress and symptoms of anxiety. Okay, I don't know if that clarifies your question, but I can continue. It says, I feel all of those types of symptoms when I was in college. I think it wasn't social. It was only when I was there. Yeah, it can also be a trigger of stress. College is such a stressful time where we have all these expectations of what we have to do. So yeah, that I think it's more of a generalized anxiety, and managing those symptoms is very important. And these techniques can help you. There are a lot, but you can use these, are the most effective ones. I've tried them. It says activists had anxiety attacks, nightmares after vigils, and some complain about suicidal tendencies. Yes, with activism work comes a big, big load of, not only anxiety, but something that is called PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm pretty sure you've heard of it. It's after being in a stressful situation, you tend to remember that situation and go back to that situation and have panic attacks, have anxiety attacks. This is really important to treat. If you have the opportunity to go to a professional to treat post-traumatic stress disorder, it is very important. The grounding techniques can help, But with panic attacks and nightmares, and if they are common or they are recurring, it is important to talk to somebody about them to make them better. I'm going to talk a little bit more also with something that nutrition can help you too. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. It says, Leo, I had some periods of anxiety after the slaughter. Yeah. Dropped me and my daughter a bucket of blood during a vigil. I am so sorry for this. Yeah, I know this can be a very, very hard experience. And that is a trigger. For example, if you feel anxiety thinking about that, that is the trigger that is going to take you back to that spot. So when you do feel that trigger again, or when you're thinking about it, try to move your focus to one of these techniques, and it's going to help you. Again, first thing is to breathe, acknowledge that you are feeling this way. Acknowledging your anxiety is very, very important. Noticing, okay, I'm feeling nervous, my heart is racing, I don't feel quite safe now. And in that moment, start with your techniques. These are, again, a few, but there are many, many techniques that you can use, and I'm going to share them with you somehow. I'm going to figure it out at the end, okay? So yeah, anxiety is quite common in activists, very, very common, and we have to take care of it because this will help us go through our work in a much better way. The things that we do are going to go better. So if we can stop with anxiety for a moment, I'm going to go to the next symptom that is very common with a lot of activists. And it comes from, I'm going to share my screen right now. And it comes from, again, the work that we do that is not nice. So the next and most common mental health issue that we have is depression, okay? Or feelings of sadness. Now, I want to make it clear that depression and feelings of sadness are different, okay? Feeling sad is completely normal, and especially with activist work, I cannot make this clearer. It is very, very important that we manage our symptoms, okay? And especially if I notice that sadness is not just today, not just after a vigil, not just after a post I saw, not just after participating in, or just bearing witness. If I feel sad constantly, more than 2 weeks, okay, this can be something that you need to notice and take care of because it could lead to depression, okay? So depression is a mood disorder. It goes beyond ups and downs, and it says so right there. It's not just, oh, today I'm sad and, I don't feel good, but the next day I can work and I can be okay. Depression is much deeper than that. So what are the most common symptoms? And I just put them right there. If somebody has doubts or hasn't, noticed or doesn't know about depression, the most common symptom is first, the loss of interest in activities that you enjoy. So for example, if I used to be a person that liked to, go out and be with friends, I know that we can right now, but before this, go out and be with friends, or that I enjoyed, walking, being with my dogs and going to work. And if I start to lose interest in simple activities, that is something that you need to notice. Also, other symptoms that I mentioned here are feeling low or empty inside. When I say empty, it's just like this feeling of nothing works, I don't feel okay. I'm just, sad, very, very sad. That would be a low feeling or feeling empty. Most people don't think this, but the next symptom, feeling irritable, most of the day could be a symptom of depression. Just everything makes me angry. Everything just is like, I feel irritable. This could be a sign of depression too. Or anything annoys me, everything that I hear or everything that someone says annoys me. That could be irritability due to depression, okay? It is very important to also notice changes in sleep, okay? If I start having trouble sleeping or insomnia or just, in general, I'm not sleeping well, this is something that you need to notice. If my eating habits change, if I am eating a lot, just compulsively eating because I need to eat, Or the opposite, if I stop eating, I don't have the strength to get up and fix myself a plate of food. This is something that you need to notice too. Habits and activities, activities go back to if I lose interest in doing things that I was doing. So that is something to notice. And also difficulty concentrating. If I am very good at doing something and I notice that I'm feeling low and all of a sudden I cannot finish a task, or I cannot finish something that I had to do and I can really read, for example. I used to enjoy reading and now it's difficult for me to go through a book. That can also be a symptom of depression or just, general sadness. The most important thing is that how often is this happening? So if you have ever noticed these symptoms, there are some techniques that you can use to, in general, just make them better. It's not going to change them if it's depression. I want to make a point of that. If it is depression, if it's been for more than 2 months, just make sure you talk to a professional about it. But if they are feelings of sadness that you find that are coming and going, there are some things that you can do. So how can I get through these feelings and symptoms? Well, the first one is talking. I think you've noticed that I love to talk, but talking, or talk therapy, it's also called. Talking about the way we feel is so important. It is a powerful tool. I cannot stress this enough. It is so, so important to talk to somebody about how you are feeling, about your emotions about something, sharing with somebody how my thoughts are and how I am feeling inside can be so important. Now, sometimes we can talk to friends, we can talk to family. Finding somebody that I can have a connection with in the things that we do is so important. So talking to people is one of the most important tools. Talk therapy, however, is going to a professional and talking about how you feel with somebody that is specialized in psychology or counseling or therapy. That is important. And sometimes it's easier to talk to somebody that is neutral. We can sometimes feel judged about our friends and families. So talking to a stranger sometimes is easier. So if you have ever felt this, I encourage you to find somebody that you can speak about everything that you're going through, okay? Another one of the, one of the techniques that I want to share with you, if you have felt this feelings of sadness and a low point and you've noticed changes in your mood, okay, is going to a thought diary or a journal. Again, I talked about the journal before. If I'm not good at writing or keeping a diary, that's okay. This is not going to be an activity for every day. A thought diary is just to record my thoughts and the way I feel. Okay, it is very important to see when I am having these episodes or when I am feeling sad or why am I feeling sad, okay? It can be a trigger, it can be a constant mood. So it is very important to take note. But there is an easy way to do this, and I wanted to show you the technique that I use. And this is a little chart that I like to use to record how I feel. So how do we use it? Let me go to my notes here. So how does it work? Well, we have 5 steps to keeping a thought diary, okay? And the first step is to make sure you write the date and the time. Why is this important? Because it helps me see when my mood is having ups and downs, okay, during a day. Or if I read the day, what days of the week do I feel more affected by my mood, okay? So that is the first step. You're going to write the date and the time. You can also write the place where you felt like this. For example, in my chart, I wrote at work. Okay, it could be a moment at work. And then the second step is to write the situation or the activity that you were doing when you started feeling low or sad or depressed, okay? So the activity was, I set myself 5 tasks to do in the day and I found it difficult to concentrate. I kept getting distracted, and I only managed to get 3 tasks done. That was the activity that made me feel sad or angry or depressed, okay? On the next part, what you're going to do is you're going to write your immediate thought or belief, okay? And when I say immediate, it's like the first thing that comes to your mind. I had 5 tasks and I only did 3. What do you think in that moment? Here are some examples of what we could think if I did that or didn't do it. It says, why do I always fail? I am so disorganized. Everyone thinks I'm useless, or I never do anything right. These thoughts that we have in a moment when we cannot finish something or when we don't do something are called automatic thoughts. And they are automatic because, like its name says, it's the first thing I think about myself when I don't accomplish something, okay? And it's very important to write them down because it's gonna show me what I think about me, about what I do, about the things that trigger me into being sad, okay? So that is step number 3. And then step number 4 is the mood or how you feel when you're thinking about this. So for example, if I didn't complete what I was gonna do and I say, why don't I ever complete it? And then what do I feel? Do I feel sad? Do I feel irritated, angry at myself? So take down whatever mood you were in when this was happening or when you noticed it. In the example, it says, I felt annoyed at myself. I felt irritated. My overall mood was I was angry that I could not complete these tasks because I am so disorganized. So you can see kind of the pattern that I'm going with this. And then we have the final step, okay? Which is once I have written that, or I have kept the record of it, I am going to try to balance my thoughts, okay? And this is something that it might seem hard to come up with like a balancing thought or solution, but this is also the part where I can show myself kindness. And this is very important. We are not perfect. We cannot do everything all the time and be happy all the time about what we do. And, you know, it's not going to be perfect. But this part is the most important part. When you are going to challenge that thought that you had and you're going to try to balance it to make you feel better and to notice that it's not that bad. Okay, so here I wrote down the negative thought and it says, I am so disorganized. Everyone thinks I'm useless. I never do anything right. That was the first thing I thought. Okay, how am I going to balance that? I am going to bring in good thoughts. So I actually accomplished more than half of the tasks. If I had 5 and I accomplished 3, wow, that is more than half. So good for you. You don't have to feel bad about yourself because you didn't do all 5, you know? Be kind to yourself. So putting it down in writing, I accomplished more than half of the task, immediately sets our brain to a positive way of thinking, okay? Also recognizing things that you are not good at, because we're not good at everything. That's just life, you know? Timekeeping is not my strong point. I need to concentrate on improving this, and you can put a date, tomorrow, starting next week, starting next month. But also notice that there are shortcomings, things that I am not perfect and that I can work with to make them better. Okay, so I really love this technique. Let me just stop sharing my screen. I really love this technique, and I think it's very important that by doing the technique, we're also taking time to analyze ourselves and the way we talk to ourselves. We can be very mean to ourselves sometimes, and this journal or thought diary helps me see that. How can I improve that? How can I not be mean and just notice that some things I can do, some things I can't, you know? I don't know if anybody has ever kept a journal. If you have and it has helped you, let me know. Okay, but it is quite a useful tool. Changing your thoughts can be difficult. I also don't know if you have experienced these symptoms of sadness or depression, and what have you done about them? Have you kept a journal? Have you reached out to friends to talk about it? Okay, so if you have any questions so far, please just let me know if you want. Okay, it says, I used to journal a lot when I was younger. I have the notebooks now and come back to them every 2 or 3 months, and they help me a lot. Yes, I love to do this too. Thank you for sharing that. It is true. I have kept a diary since I was 9 years old. I stopped for a while, but coming back to that, and that is very important that you mention it, coming back and looking at what you wrote in that moment, you can see what things have changed, what things have improved, what things you still need to work on. And remember that ourselves, and especially activism, brings a lot of feelings that not everybody's going to understand. Not everybody that's not an activist is going to understand. So having that tool and putting into paper how I feel is very, very important. I have another comment. It says, lately, all I do is cry. I take everything on myself. All right. Even if it's out of my control, I will try to keep a journal too. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, and crying, I wanna make a point of this. Crying is great. Okay, don't feel bad about crying. If you need that release of emotion, sometimes, crying, it is the release of all the things that I have bottled up and that I haven't been able to talk to someone about, and that I just keep to myself. And the way it's coming out is by crying. So if you notice that your crying is more than the normal amount, you can talk to somebody that you feel in confidence about it, but cry it out. There's a phrase that they say, it's cry it out, and write it down. Write, why are you crying? What made you feel like you needed that space to just release it by crying? It's very important. So I encourage you to do it. Also, writing down positive thoughts or situations is helpful too. Yes, I agree. That is why we try the balancing part. Try to do, okay, I did this. I am good at this. I am not so good at this, but I'm going to try. That is very important. When you read it again, it's like living it again. And yeah, it's true. When you read it again, you kind of feel happy about all the happy things you wrote in that moment. And it brings that moment of joy back. I agree. I love crying when I feel bad, but it seems to annoy other people. Yes, cry it out. Don't put pressure on yourself about what other people think. That is something that we need to, calm ourselves down. You don't want people to see you. I go into my bathroom or my closet. It's my crying space, and I feel safe there, and I just cry it out. It's very important. Okay. Thank you. It helped me a lot. I had horrible anxiety attacks whenever everything gets dizzy and I feel like I'm going to fall. Yes, it's one of the symptoms, and it's very important to notice it and do one of the grounding techniques that we talked about. Okay. All right. So time is going to be short now for the last part. I think I can handle it. But as I mentioned before, I am a clinical psychologist, but I am also certified in nutrition, specifically plant-based nutrition. And there is something that I want to share with you that I want you to take home because it is so important. Being healthy in our mind is great, but we cannot be healthy here if everything else is not healthy, and that includes our nutrition. Okay, it is something that we kind of leave behind, and we put it in the back, and it may be the nutrition that I'm having may be what is causing my symptoms. So again, I'm going to share my screen now just to give you a few tips on this topic. There we go. And then we are going to talk a little bit about nutrition, okay? Why is it important? Because sometimes I can feel sad. Sometimes I can feel irritated, and that is all good. And if I don't find a reason why I'm feeling sad, why I'm feeling irritated, maybe there's nothing. I cannot find anything that is making me feel this way. It could be due to a nutrition deficiency, okay? Here I just wrote something and it says, deficits in some nutrients can mimic mental health disorders, especially deficits in nutrition can mimic anxiety symptoms and depression symptoms, believe it or not. It's true. In order for our brain to function properly, it's a machine, okay? It's a very well done machine, and it needs the fuel to work, okay? It needs the fuel to release the proper neurotransmitters. It needs the fuel to make connectivity and have the brain tissue be healthy. So nutrition is key into the way we feel, okay? Most of us, and I'm include myself, are not getting all the nutrients that we need. Even if we eat pretty healthy, sometimes we can miss some of them. So there is evidence that if we do have deficiencies in some of the nutrients, it's going to affect here our mental health and how we feel. So I'm going to talk about some of the most common deficiencies that we might have, and these are it. Okay, the nutrient deficiencies can be vitamin B12, vitamin D, magnesium, and omega-3s. So I have my notes here so I don't forget anything that I want to say. For most of us, if most of us, are vegan or plant-based, vitamin B12 is very important. I know most of us supplement on it. We can also get it from our foods, but a deficiency in B12 is going to make me feel symptoms of depression, okay? And why? Because B12 is important in making our nerves and the blood cells work, okay? It aids to the production and good function of all of the things that I have in there, dopamine, what is the name of the other one? Serotonin, okay? So it is important to have good levels of B12. Dopamine is crucial in experiencing pleasure, okay? So if I don't have a good process in my dopamine, or my neurotransmitters are not processing dopamine correctly, I can feel sad. I don't feel pleasure. I feel sad. I feel low, okay? So B12 is very important. If you cannot have it from the food, we know that nutritional yeast has it. Some fortified foods have B12, but you can also supplement. And there are great vegan supplements for B12 that you can take, okay? We will talk about recommendations later on. The next one is vitamin D. And vitamin D, sunlight is so important, okay? Why is it important to be good in our vitamin D levels? Well, vitamin D is receptors in our brain. They take the vitamin D from the sunlight and they help proper nerve growth, okay? So our nerves are okay, our brain tissue is okay. And if we don't get enough sunlight, we can also experience symptoms of depression. I'm pretty sure you've heard that people that live in countries or places where there is no sunlight for long periods of time show high levels of depression between the people there, okay? So getting in vitamin D is very important. If you do get out and enjoy the sunlight, always be safe, put on your sunscreen, okay? But enjoy it. Go out a few times of the day and just get it, and it's going to make your system better. Also, fortified foods with vitamin D are orange juice, soy milk, and you can take a supplement of vitamin D that we can use for, just getting those levels up. Even with kids is very important too, that take a supplement because they usually don't eat as well as we do. Another one of the deficiencies that we can have is magnesium. I know we don't think about all this stuff, but if we have a deficiency in magnesium, it's gonna mimic anxiety symptoms, okay? Magnesium, what it does, it transports all the nutrients that we take into our brain to properly function properly. I'm sorry, that is the way. And it can mimic an anxiety attack, okay, or an anxiety symptom. And nothing in my environment can be making me anxious, but this deficiency can mimic those symptoms. How can you get magnesium? You can eat beans, nuts, dark leafy greens, avocados, if you can get them, bananas, and dark chocolate. So there you go. I am going to mention all of these things in a little while. And then the next deficiency that can affect our mood, I know that you have heard that phrase, good food, good mood. It has a reason why people say it. It's not just eating great and feeling great. It has a meaning behind it, and it's the nutrients. Omega-3 is a big factor in my mood, okay? One of the most essential nutrients is omega-3 to make it work, to make our brain work. And not only our brain, but our entire body to absorb the nutrients and feel okay, okay? A deficiency in omega-3 is associated with both depression and anxiety. So how can you get those? You can get them through food, okay? If most of us, I think, don't eat animals, we can still get them through food, okay? Through other sources. And that is what I want to share with you before we finish. So if you have had these kind of symptoms and they are not or haven't been treated by a professional, and it's not something that you feel that you need to treat because it's on and off, or they just change, try to make some changes in your diet and try to include these things in your diet. Right here I mentioned nuts and seeds, which are wonderful to eat and delicious, but also give us a lot of things. Walnuts, flax seeds, and chia seeds are the top of the food chain to give us omega-3, okay? Those are the top of the top of the top. So include them in your diet. Almonds, if you can. Eat a diet full of veggies and fruits. I don't need to stress how important this is for our body to feel well. Fruits and veggies that you can include to attack those anxiety symptoms or depression symptoms are leafy greens, avocados, oranges, bananas. Those are great to help our mood overall. And dark chocolate. Who doesn't enjoy dark chocolate? But other foods that you can include is dark chocolate, valerian root. If you don't know what this is, it's very common in my country. Valerian root, you can have it in tea. You can have it as an essence, I also think. And this one is the only herb that has been scientifically proven to lower anxiety symptoms. So if you can have valerian root, that would be great. And fermented foods, like kimchi or pickled fruits, that is also very nice. And maybe after changing your diet, you can notice some mood improvement, okay? I know that coffee is great, but if you can steer away from coffee, if you are anxious, it is very important. And the reason is because I have to look at this. Coffee turns off the production of adenosine, okay? And adenosine is the calming chemical that we have in our body, like the natural one, not the pills, not anything extra. Adenosine is in our body and it makes us feel calm. And what does coffee do? Turns it off. So I don't feel calm. And that can also affect my anxiety if I am an anxious person, okay? So I am going to stop sharing my screen. And I want to ask you if kind of the nutrition part of this makes sense, or if you have noticed that your nutrition plays a part in your mood. It says, this sounds really great. Help. Sometimes our negativity and lack of motivation and pushes away from doing the things that we know and makes us feel good. It's tricky. Yes, it is tricky to do all these things. It's just noticing. The first step is to notice how you feel and working on how you feel with it, okay? So yeah, it's tricky. I agree with you. It says, the reason I started writing was because I needed to express my feelings. Oh, we're going into the writing part. And that was mostly a grounding technique. Great job, Maria Luz. I encourage you to continue writing. It's a very powerful tool. It says, after years of running my own massage business, I realized that I am vitamin D deficient, as I worked in the dark every day and I have not done better. Yes, it's very important. People don't really notice the deficiencies in nutrients, and it can be, one of the things that trigger one of those anxieties. So maybe if you don't have sunlight or you work in a dark space, you can take a supplement. There are great vegan supplements. I just want to show you. This brand, I don't know if you've seen it, but this is the one my daughter takes, and this is my B12. And if you don't get it from the place that you work or your food, you can supplement, and it's very important to notice that. Says it makes a lot of sense. Plant-based food cancel my need for pills. Regarding depression, wow, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Nilgun, but that is so great to hear. It did kind of the same thing for me too with anxiety. So I agree with you. It's great to hear that. It says, never really thought about this, but I often experience some symptoms of anxiety without being there a trigger. It might be nutrition. Yeah, it might be. I mean, you don't have to eat perfect every day, but if you do include these things that I shared, these 4 things are the one that almost always trigger or mimic mental health illness symptoms. So you can check out your nutrition there. Put it all in a smoothie and just drink it and it'll be fine. You don't even have to think about cooking things. Smoothies are great. I find it. It says, my psychologist advised about taking sun bath. It really works. Yes, taking a sun bath is really great. Just go outside, be with nature, be in the sunlight, and that will make you just feel better immediately. Can nutrition help with my memory loss too? Well, it depends, but yes, because memory loss is a part of our brain and the memory part of our brain. And if you are not well, if you don't have the correct amount of nutrients, some parts of the brain can stop functioning. There was a study with, I don't want to say you have Alzheimer's, but I am touching down on the memory part, including foods that are high in fat can help you with memory loss. And high in fat, good fats, not bad fats, I mean, avocados, coconut, also flax seeds can help. So if you want to improve your memory, try adding this to your plate. You can put coconut oil on your food while you cook it, or you can enjoy coconut water or anything that you like. And avocados are great if you can get them where you are. I know sometimes it's hard, but foods high in fats are going to help you to improve a little bit on memory. This was a study that was done on Alzheimer's again, but you can use it for memory loss too. Last comment, it says, when I started taking vegan D3 and B12, I started feeling so much better. Yes, it's powerful. So I wanted to touch on this subject a little bit because it's not always something that we talk about. So yes, there is anxiety, there is depression. Life is not always nice to us, and especially in the time that we are living. It's hard, but if we can do something to help aid those symptoms, and something that is as simple as the way I eat, and pay attention to that, it's gonna improve. You're gonna feel a lot better. And also the part of cooking for myself, being kind to yourself. Cooking a little plate of food that you enjoy and that is going to make you feel great, it's being kind and taking time to take care of yourself. And that is the name of the workshop. You matter. So take the time for you to look at all these things and improve on those things, and making yourself matter and putting yourself as a priority, I think, is very good. It says, foods high in good fat. Yes, not plaque creating. Yes, foods high in good fat. That is very important. Nothing that is going to clog up our arteries or make us sick or, give us heart disease. Please, we know that we won't eat those. So thank you for your message. So that is it. I just want to share my screen one more time because I want to leave you with a little message that I found that is very important. And it says, be kind to yourself. Be proud of yourself, because you matter. You make a difference. And I just wanted to kind of leave this with you, because so often we push ourselves to the back and we do everything else first and we leave ourselves last. And the work that we do matters. So if we want to continue to do this work and do what we love, we have to be kind with ourselves, and we have to be proud of the work that we do too.